Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara. It's our last week of shows for 2024, Monday, December 16th, 2024. And both myself and Dave Wheeler welcome you to the show. So, this is our talk show that focuses on the news impacting Niagara Falls and around. Today, got a number of interesting topics: bus shelters, the Niagara Regional Levy, new quantum computing chip, Christmas activities for a fun holiday, and a few other things. Postal strike, maybe, strike negotiations underway, right?
The big news today is going to be Chrystia Freeland's budget.
Yeah, it is going to be, and that one I didn't put a quote that one I didn't put. Yeah. Yep, and I didn't put a quote in for that one yet. Missed that one entirely off my list. Right. There we go. Got it. So, the Niagara. Okay, so let's talk about this one. There was a comment left on Friday's show by Sandra McKinnon. And, she's our kind of, if the mayor steps down, Sandra's the mayor. Right. So there we go. So she's saying, she's been talking about for quite some time the lack of bus shelters in Niagara. And there are many, many social issues, and the venue, and she's basically saying many people have been ignoring her request about this. People must, basically have been given such a runaround by Niagara Regional Transit, the mayors of Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and budget being the main reason. What she is saying is that it's more important that people who spend a lot of time using the bus service don't have bus shelters while they're waiting in awful weather, with snow, cold wind, rain, even hot sun, actually, if you think about it, trying to get to food bank, and just using buses generally. So there's no shelter out there for when you're a bus user.
Well, there are in some places, but there aren't on others. I see people standing on Throwstone Road, close to the road, and they're not in really great places there. And when in the wintertime, when those sidewalks are covered in snow because the sidewalk's right beside the road, I mean, where are they going to stand? Because you just can't pass by there. I suppose, yeah, this is an issue, but another one tied to this was when all the bus shelters got busted up by vandals. Remember that?
That actually is something I think most cities, you go through this cycle of there's a demand for bus shelters, and I applaud Sandra for doing that. And there's a lot of people who utilize buses who are waiting 15, 20 minutes for a bus. And when there's a bitter cold wind blowing at you, that's blowing minus 20 at you on a winter's afternoon, it's not fun sitting there, standing there waiting for a bus. Then the trouble is we go through this cycle of build bus shelters, solve that problem, then get them vandalized and take them away, don't we?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. Now we should be having bus shelters at any possible place where we can put them. There's obviously some places along the place I just mentioned on Throwstone Road. It's very impractical to put a bus shelter there.
You put a bus stop. You can't put a bus shelter, for example, at Lundy's Lane and Drummond at that junction, could you?
Yeah, there are places that it's very impractical, but anywhere where there could be a bus shelter, particularly the busier places, we definitely should have them there. And I can understand Sandra's anger here and frustration that, yeah, they're just as we're starting to increase the amount of bus people using the bus, particularly those like I know a person now who is going to be forced to use the bus now because they had just lost their license due to medical reasons and won't be able to drive anymore.
Yeah.
And ever. So this person now in her late 70s is going to have to figure out how to use the buses. And of course, when you're that late in seniorhood, basically, that's going to be a problem, isn't it?
Mm.
And if you have to take the bus, now you have to take the bus, and you're an older person standing out in the cold and the wet. What are you going to do? So yeah, wherever possible, put a bus shelter. That's I think that's something we can do, but there are many places where you just can't do that.
Yeah. And I also think that we do have to be mindful of the fact that I remember bus shelters that we've had in the Niagara region being beaten up and smashed up. In fact, I remember a discussion with Paul Kalamir about that, and like how it was shameful that people were doing such a thing.
Yeah, I don't understand this need for vandalism. How I don't get the end. I don't get the where the thrill comes from. I don't. And remember, like you're not when somebody's vandalizing the bus shelters, it's not like they're vandalizing the United Healthcare building in the United States or some other sort of symbol of evil, or abuse. This is a ordinary bus shelter that's used by ordinary people. So when you vandalize it, who are you targeting?
Yeah.
You're targeting the least those people who take buses are among the lowest economic winners in the society. Otherwise, they'd have a car. So
Irrespective of people having a car, you've got people like the person who's no longer able to drive. She probably won't be taking the buses much either. But the point being is that there are plenty of people who, it's not about the least. When you think about it, we should be turning more to public transit anyway, rather than less.
Which would make it nicer to have better bus shelters. But then on the other hand, if they start getting vandalized, what is the city or region going to do about that? Every time we put one up, it gets vandalized. It costs us X amount of dollars to put it there, and then it gets vandalized. But
Mike makes a good point. Mike makes a good point here that snowbanks present the worst of the problems for disabled taking the bus. Climbing over a snowbank is horrible when you can't walk well. Yeah. And they don't clear those paths on the snow where the snowbank, where you are for the disabled person. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Right. Yeah, and that's certainly a problem. Right. It's certainly been a problem. Okay, so moving on to the Niagara Regional Levy. This is 9.6%. Oh my God. Dave? You're frozen. Oh, Dave's having a problem. Looks like Dave is having a problem. So Niagara Regional Levy basically sets the Niagara region has set the 2025 tax increase to 9.6%. And basically the big loser in all of this has been the Police Services Board. They'd originally requested a 15.1% increase in their budget. And after the council requested the board pare back, the board agreed to 13.2% increase. And then the council asked for a second round of budget cuts, which the board refused. And the council voted to override the board and reduce the proposed police budget by a further $800,000. So that means that they got a 12 point. Sorry, that was $800,000. Yeah. So that's significant cuts in the police budget, and which interesting there. After two, and basically saying here is that after 2 years of property tax increase exceeding 7%, some outside groups are calling upon Niagara Regional Council to do more, to do a much more comprehensive review of spending and identify specific budget cuts for next year. And I have to say that, when we've got a city, we've got a municipality, the regional municipality has been causing issues like this. Let's see what Dave is saying. Something happened, can't get back on. Okay. I'm just telling him to keep trying. Right. Basically, Dave is having trouble getting back on. Something's happened. He can't get back on. Okay, there we go. So that Niagara Regional levy is actually being questioned by a lot of people. CAO Ron Tripp has urged councillors to make any not to make any additional cuts that were on the table, insisting that every element of the initial budget was necessary. And the trouble is, 9.6% is way too much for households in Niagara to accept. It really is. And I'm sorry, but there's nothing that makes this palatable from my viewpoint. Councillor Tom Encina questioned how staff could decided which additional staff would not be hired as a result of reducing the staff's proposed 2025 budget. It was time for this, and it says it was time for the city and council and the region to consider doing more with less, and warned that people could lose their homes for lack of affordability. And I have to agree that putting the tax up by 9.6% is way too much. And furthermore, Councillor Liana Villela suggested that we have a 2-year hiring freeze to help lower the tax hike. But that suggestion was not voted upon. Welcome back, Dave.
Yeah, I had an internet interruption of some kind.
Oh, I see. That would explain a lot. Because you just froze. Yeah. I moved on to the 9.6% Niagara Regional tax budget.
Yeah, isn't that sweet?
Yeah, at a time when most people cannot afford it.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, because either can the region. The region can't afford it either, and that's why we're getting a 9.6 percentage property tax increase when added together with last year's 7.2% property increase. Yeah. Regional. Well, what it's saying is that the region's having a whole lot of trouble, isn't it?
Yeah.
Money, they don't have enough money, and where are they going to lean on money? They're going to lean right on us for that money. And that's not going to do us very many favors, is it? During a time when we are already having difficulty paying our bills. We got Christmas coming up, and even the federal government is going to try to give us a break. Of course, they're trying to buy votes. They don't really care too much about us, but they're trying to buy votes. And here we got nearly 10% increase in our property taxes. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And the worst of this is that Niagara Falls, which is typically tries to do its level best to actually ensure that that budget, that 9% increase, isn't passed on to us, the local levy payers. The trouble is, we know it's going to happen. We probably know that while they do their best to actually reduce the impact upon us, the homeowners, it won't really stop it.
Well, the big crunch in this budget is the police budget. That's what they're blaming on the principal increase here. Is the Police Services Board originally requested a 15.1% budget increase, and then after Council Board pared back the increase, the board then agreed for a 13.2% increase. However, Council then asked for a second round of budget cuts. Then the board refused. Still, the council overrode it and then reduced it by another $800,000.
Yeah.
Why are the police so expensive? I see them driving around in the biggest cars possible. Can't they drive around in a smaller car?
Well,
there's a whole lot of things I think we can do. We get, like those police big, huge, full size SUV things they drive. It's like you get one person. Do they need something that big? Do they need that something that guzzling? I'm asking. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's probably all kinds of fluff in there that it can be carved out.
And well, I would start for one thing, pay freezes.
Well, that would be a good thing too. And what they've also said is they've tried to, in a previous announcement, they need so many more officers, but they're trying to delay them, sort of delay the financial impact of having new officers being trained to put on the job. But that only postpones the problem. So is there anybody in there that knows how to carve up a police department? Like we find the same thing here in Niagara Falls with the fire department.
Yeah,
it's a huge budget. Is there no way we can reduce the size of that?
And Mike says, can we call an election? Fire them all. Should not have been on should not have been on election budget platform. Yeah, they don't want people to pay the property tax and steal the properties. And a larger population, the more police you need. If federal government let them in, need to supply funds. And actually, talking about accountability, which is what Mike was talking about here, about calling an election. Actually, it's a very good question. I was listening to somebody from a new political party, the Canada Dominion Party at a federal level, that's talking about they would like to see the right of recall for certain people. So, yeah, I'd like to see the right of recall of our councillors.
Well, if you were to talk to the councillors, I bet you they're saying, what else are we supposed to do?
And I get it.
And Karen Fraser says every 100,000 is one riding with one rep, but every regional rep represents approximately 15,000 people. There's a good point. Is this one layer of superfluous government?
I would say that I would agree that there's an excellent point there. I would say that we should not have the mayors should not be on regional council, and I would say that we should have certain of how our elected councillors should be doubling up. they should be on our council as well as on regional council.
That might be a good idea, and that could trim some of the fat at regional council. However, if you were to go to regional council right now and ask the different regional councilors about this 9.6, I'm pretty sure they're going to say we really didn't have much choice because of the police budget and other things. We're having as much trouble as you paying our bills. We're being faced with inflation and everything else.
Well, the interesting thing,
every time you go to the grocery store and see the raise in price of food, we're doing the same thing when we go out and try to spend our dollars frugally. We're not being able to do that because all the prices of everything have gone up. So they would defend themselves in that way. And if I'm not so sure, I'm trying to put my feet in the shoes of a regional councilor, and what would I do?
well, interesting.
Faced with a police budget like that, I could yell and scream all I want, but they're going to get their way because they're the police.
Well, the interesting thing is about this, I don't think it's just the police budget. Police budget's always one that attracts a certain amount of control. There's always certain people that want to attack the police budget and others that want to increase the police budget. But essentially here, I note that we haven't had the normal comments that we do from Councillor Bob Gale. He's normally the one who's looking at sensible spending, making sure that our spending is sensible.
Well, Bob used to be a cop.
Well, yeah, but not just that. And yeah, Bob, but I think Bob Gale would make a lot of sensible suggestions on this. And, we still need to actually, and the thing is, a lot of things whereby when people have left jobs in the region, maybe they need to leave those jobs open for a while. Maybe we need to, delay new recruitment, those types of things. They're things we can do to just basically reduce the costs a little bit.
I'm sure believe me, every one of those councilors doesn't want to increase the budget. Every one of them knows it's going to be a mark on them. And yet they still come up with nearly 10%. So I'm wondering, is it even possible to get a brand new budget under 9.6 without, and Betty Zoom and Mike says, what did Betty Zoom says? Stats say different, that if the city has no issues, runs smoothly, 50,000 people, this would translate into approximately 90 to 125 police officers. Okay. Well, remember too, one of the arguments of the police is that our region is expanding rapidly. Our population is expanding rapidly. And we know that our continuous problems and policing efforts due to the homeless people, a small amount of homeless people are adding a lot of time and effort to the police department. And yet, do we really need, and my issue, do we need that many police officers? Can't we have other people do traffic tickets, lesser qualified people? How many people what skill level is there to give a traffic ticket?
Well, arguably, that is where you would have machines giving automated tickets, wouldn't you?
You could too, but what's the difference of just somebody taking down the ticket number and going to their house or whatever, or even if you want to pull them over, do you need a gun strapped to your side of your you know what I mean? Do you need the fanciest of cars? Look, when I was years ago, I remember a traffic cop that was giving people tickets on the highway, and he had a very small, ordinary car.
Yeah. You never know who you're pulling over in a traffic stop.
Dave, you never know who you are pulling over at. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember a cop had his hand on his gun coming to talk to me one day, and he pulled me over, and I saw him, and he come up to me slowly, and he took the cap off of his gun holder, and he's had his hand in it on his gun, and when he came to the window, I says, "Look, man, I was going 102 and 100." He says, "I'm not pulling you over for that," and he looked kind of nervous, but I guess my sticker had worn off on the back of my plate. But boy, was he was a little bit too nervous, if you ask me. So another cop pulled me over behind Shoppers Drug Mart, basically, and told me that I looked suspicious. I was going to the bank. He pulled me over, and
That's suspicious.
He says,
"Oh, you're Dave.
Suspicious. What are you doing? Are you like you stopped? You're casing this joint to steal it, aren't you? What? What are you talking about? You know." Anyway, I had and then he kind of then when I went to the bank, I just waited there because I know he showed up to make sure that I go to the bank. This guy was just fried out of his noodle. He was just stressed right out. So
what were you, 20 at the time?
No, this was just about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, weird. Okay, so Karen's saying all three of our regional reps are missing in action. Kim is the most active. What have we heard from them? Well, what we heard was Councillor Joyce Morocco supported the budget, but did voice frustrations and insisted that senior levels of government need to step up with more funding, given all the demands are being placed upon local levels of government. In other words, she's passing the buck.
Sure, and they will pass the buck again. So that's her solution is, look, the province has got to step up, and the province will say, okay, well, the feds have got to step up, and we know what kind of shape the feds are in right now. So definitely she may have a good idea there that the province should step up and start handing out some more money, but the province isn't in great shape financially either. You know, they've never really been able to chip down that huge deficit they have either. So I don't really know. Like, so I think, to tell you the truth, we could get mad at these regional councils of ours, but I'm not so sure they had much of a choice.
I accept that. It's probably fair that they didn't have much of a choice here.
If you don't get Bob Gale beacon off, you know something's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, quick one here. Google's new quantum computing computer chip is unveiled. They're basically saying this thing can be, basically can be one of the fastest chip computers on the planet, and it's developing in field name basically using quantum computing, which is basically it uses principles of particle physics to create a new mind-bogglingly powerful computer. And there are few of these around. They cost billions to actually create. They're not cheap. And this new one is basically just a new latest quantum computer. I didn't really know that that Google were into quantum computers, but it doesn't surprise me.
Well, Google's got all kinds of money, and if it wants to stay ahead, it's going to get into the newer technology. Now, this will give you an idea. It says, right in the very first paragraph, Google has unveiled a new chip, which claims it takes 5 minutes to solve a problem that would currently take the world's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion or 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 years to complete. In other words, it took a problem that solved that problem in 5 years. Now, don't think that anything's going to change anytime soon, though. That's a super fast computer, but it uses quantum computing, which means it will recognize two things in a different place at once until they are measured. So even if you have a billion different possibilities, what you do is you measure, and what you're looking for is one outcome. It's very, very difficult to explain quantum computing.
Well, it's about quantum mechanics and these ultra tiny particles that crack problems faster than traditional computers. But these things also run at like minus 100 degrees Celsius.
Well, it doesn't tell you here how cold that is. It is, but it is a quantum computer, and what it is opening up a brand new door. Right now, basically, we run on, if to oversimplify it, Newtonian physics. Basically, right now they're going to go into quantum physics, which is that universe of the ultra small. And strange things happen in the universe of ultra small. You can have a particle exist in two places at once. It's the old Schrödinger's cat, basically, and it's very hard to explain. So I'm not even going to try it because it's way beyond my pay grade. And so basically, they harness quantum mechanics, the strange behavior of ultra tiny particles, to crack problems faster than traditional computers. But my son is with me during the holidays here, and he told me, don't get too excited about this because there are extreme limitations to all of this. And it sounds like, okay, you're not going to be able now just to solve problems super fast by putting a quantum computer on it. It has limitations right now, but it is something almost like Faraday's magnet. When Faraday created electricity in 1830, it was another half a century before they were able to use his ideas to create electrical flow, and then it took another half a century after that before most people could take advantage of electricity. So keep in mind, yeah.
Here's something else to note, though. Damn you, Apple, who's damn thing. Everything's just frozen on me. Apple, who's basically just announced that they've stepped up their encryption for iMessage chats to make them quantum proof.
How about that?
Yeah. And I'm stuck. I'm frozen.
Yeah. And at least you weren't in like a kind of an embarrassing pose, like something like that. Are you still there now? I don't know if anyone else is still out there. I don't know if Peter is out there. We're having our difficulties these days.
There we go.
I'm supposed to-
I don't know about what's going on there. I've lost everything.
Well, yeah, I can hear your voice now. There's just a blank screen where you are. I don't know. What do you see on your end? Can you see me?
I see you. I see you.
Okay.
I see.
Okay, well, we could carry on here. The quantum, I don't know if anyone else can hear us, though.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone can chime in.
Well, I don't know. I've got.
Oh, Betty's there, at least.
I've
Oh,
got
Merry
Betty,
Christmas, Betty.
and I've got Chris. You guys back, but cannot see you, Peter. Yeah, I can't be seen. For whatever reason, I can't see me either. Right.
Well, they were usually only looking at my handsome face all along, anyhow. Anyway, the quantum computing chip, that is something else. It is in its infancy, and even in the article, they say that they will put it to use for a few practical things right now. But there's a lot of testing and a lot of things to have to go on. But this, I think, will really stagger the defense industry. If you have a kind of potential for a quantum computing chip that can do in 5 minutes what would take the best supercomputers combined tens of millions of years to do, you could do it in 5 minutes. Then imagine the advantage you would have militarily all over the world.
Oh, yeah. And hey, that means we can, if it's going to help us that quickly, we can develop warp drive in about 3.6 minutes, can't we?
Yes, there's all kind, but like I said before, there's very much a whole lot of limitations of what you you can use this for.
I don't.
But as we develop it further, this will be an unusual, very unusual advance. And technology is the thing that advances. You can have a very small country, but if you have technical advances that make you superior, you can rule the world. Look at the Dutch. The Dutch came up with superior boat designs and cannon designs and all kinds of other things, and better finances and so on. And that little country dominated a huge part of the world for a couple hundred years. And then Britain, a tiny country, did the same thing. So a small country, normally when you think of power, you think of each country and their population size. And that is what would give you the power of one country over the other. But when technology makes the whole difference here, and you can bet the United States, having a population of only a third of China's, would be very interested in making sure that they have the technical edge over China. It's technical, and that would also make it economic edge over China. So this has a lot of ramifications. As soon as Google announced this, I bet you they were smothered by Defense Department people.
Yeah, but in Google, it's not where they primarily want to see their technology be used. All right, moving on. The Freeland budget.
Oh boy, she's in trouble.
The finance minister is expected to keep her promise that the 23-24 budget deficit, to maintain the 23-24 budget deficit and keep below $40.1 billion. Is she going to do that? No.
It's not possible. It's not possible. For one thing, the GST holiday has just pushed the budget right out of reach.
Yeah.
The demands of the Trump government is going to make things different as well. The demands of the Trump government will require probably about.
We're doing this again, aren't we? Okay. Dave, still losing you this time. Yeah, part of the problem we have with the budget is, it's with exactly as you say, with adding that, we're taking away HST the last little while is not really helping us at all with our budget. It's not really getting us moving forward. And Dave has died again, right? So for the fiscal year, we need to know what's what. Yeah, absolutely. She's never put a budget together. I waited every year for someone to tell us nothing now. Confusion. Yeah, yeah. And basically, this budget by Freeland. Well, to be quite honest, we just look at the fact that they put out that they will be giving out $200 checks to everybody, and that there was the HST, HST holiday. Well, an HST holiday is basically going to mean that's going to cost us lots of money on the budget. That's for sure. Can't really do much about that. See what. Okay, Dave basically saying, where are you? I don't know. I don't know where Dave is. And that budget is not helping at all. Right. And as Mike says, creative accounting is part of the problem, right? We need honest accounting, accounting to be followed, and that's absolutely right, because part of the problem we have with budgets is the fact that that's exactly what they're doing, creative accounting, right? And it doesn't matter if it's the same issue as we're facing for the region. It's a creative accounting type budget. We were talking about regional problems, and exactly the same we've got with the region as we've got with with the budget we've got, for the feds.
Yes. So the feds are in deep trouble right now. Chrystia Freeland is in trouble. I don't know if you mentioned that when I was gone. She's in big trouble.
Yeah.
Trudeau's brought Mark Carney in. She's having continuous problems with Trudeau. Trudeau wants to spend more money. He wants to spend more money to stay more popular. And Chrystia Freeland, who is a real economist, is trying to rein in the spending so that we don't get too far off the beam. But even her, when she's going to start talking about the economy, she's going to start talking about debt to GDP ratio and comparing that to other countries. And even though our debt to GDP ratio is being reduced, and particularly the debt to GDP ratio as it applies to individuals, in other words, each individual has more debt incurred upon them. She will try to say that we are in very good shape because our debt to GDP ratio is much better than the other countries. This is not true. When you're in debt like we are, and one of the reasons why our debt does not show up as much is because our economy has relied on new immigrants every year. So when a new immigrant comes into the country, they start spending, and that makes the economy look a little brighter than it normally would if those immigrants didn't come in. But the problem is each individual in Canada, even though there's more money being spent, each individual in Canada can afford to spend less money. So it is a plastic look. It is an artificial look of prosperity. The more people you bring in, the more they spend. It makes it look like the economy is better, but the more people you bring in, the less able each individual can spend. So if you look under the surface, the economy is pretty good. You've got a lot of spending going on, but what is at the bottom of this? What you used to spend 5 years ago, you're spending 90% of that now, and then maybe 80% of it later. But you've got new immigrants to come in to make it look like the spending has remained the same. and that's largely an explanation I got from CBC, basically. So what they are admitting there is that when you bring in immigrants, you can make it look as if the economy is doing much better, but they're not talking about the standard of living there. So she's going to go on and say, we're in really good shape because our debt to GDP is better. But remember, they never talked debt to GDP ratio until after the 2015 budgets of the Liberal government, where they said they were going to increase spending for the meantime, and that increase in spending would generate enough fire in the economy that the debt would pay for itself. But thereafter that, they never talked about deficits anymore. They only talked about debt to GDP ratio, which the average person doesn't understand. All they know is their bottom line is shrinking.
But the debt to GDP ratio, we're actually becoming one of the worst in the world with this.
Well, they're saying we're one of the best because we're in debt, but not as debt as other countries. That's basically what they're saying. We're in debt. We're deeply in debt, but that's okay because we're not as deeply in debt as some of the other countries out there in the G7. That's backward logic, if you ask me. So you said it's okay to get, and what Freeland is going to say is it's really okay to get into more debt. We had the guardrail of $40.1 billion. We weren't going to go past that guardrail. That is our guidelines. We can't get past that. When she talks about her budget today, it's going to be at least $46 billion. So she's going to bust through that by at least $5 or $6 billion. Some people think she's going to bust the door wide open to $62 billion. And if she loses her job, now she's probably putting on a bit of restraint. So I don't expect it to be more than $6 billion over what she said was her red line. I expect that if she loses her job to Carney, which some people say, that Trudeau will want to spend a ton more money in order to get more popular before the election. That means he'll let Carney do the budget, which may mean our debt will balloon once he gets her out of the way, because she is the one aspect of restraint right now. From the rumors that are told that pretty much Trudeau wants to go hog wild, or he wants to really spend a lot. He sees his popularity waning. He wants $250 checks out to everybody that we'll have to pay for eventually.
I'll take the $250 check, but hey, I'm not going to vote for him.
Yeah, I'll take it too, because why not? And Karen Fraser made a really good point. She's on her Facebook. She says that the GST or the HST holiday is not obligatory. So some stores may not help you out there. I don't exactly know how that's explained.
But put the situation is HST is calculated automatically when you ring up the bill. When you ring up the bill at the till, HST is calculated automatically on top of your produce. Now, what the bigger stores like Zayres and the like have done is they put in an amendment to their software to make sure that you don't get HST added to your bill. The trouble is the smaller stores don't have that capability of taking HST away.
Yes. So, yeah. And well, you can, if you don't think you've got your HST break, Karen says that you can put it in your taxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Right now, I have my Kiwanis Club has purchased a lot of school supplies, and we just got a big new load of school supplies that we're going to ship out to this time Simcoe Street School. But we delayed the purchase until today so that we can get a bit of a break on it.
Yeah, Randy asked a good question. How come a country as sophisticated as ours does not have safeguards to stop a relatively small group from destroying our future in ballooning debt? Oh yeah, we do. Except Singh and the NDP are seconding this stupidity.
Well, Singh, of course,
And
the Marxist, the Maserati Marxist.
and I don't know. I don't see that at all. But still, anyway, and Bloc Québécois, to be quite honest, as well.
Right? Well, the Bloc will at times do what they want to do, but the Bloc hasn't got any real problems. They can go either way. The biggest problem, of course, is the NDP, and they're terrified of. They can say the government's weak and all that. And we knew that the NDP would try to distance themselves from the Liberals when it came close, when the election's coming, but they haven't really did that. They're terrified of an election. Their leader, they should have, because their leader's getting more and more unpopular all the time.
Yeah,
calling him the Maserati Marxist. He owns expensive cars, has a Rolex, very luxurious. He doesn't really look like the NDP guy at all. So his character, and as a matter of fact, his character is being assailed because there's one journalist that says that he has engaged in racist remarks, probably against white people. But I was watching I think a YouTube thing which claimed that, but of course it had very few details. So
yeah, and it's all. You see, one of the things I find is that the term Marxist is just slapped around and used for anybody. Hey, you're a union man, Dave. You've been a union man all your life, friggin' Marxist, right? That's how that term is just slapped around without people even understanding what the hell it means.
Well, look at the idiotic remarks south of the border. Kamala was a Marxist and Trump was a fascist.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Exactly. Right. And need to abolish the Senate so badly. Not abolish it, but reform it. Massively reform it, I believe.
I think we can get rid of it. We don't have a Senate here in Ontario, do we? We pass our bills just fine, don't we? We don't need we don't need a Senate oversight over.
Well, I believe that the Senate should be restructured.
I think we should get rid of it. I'm with Mike.
All right. Okay.
There's enough oversight from the average people, and particularly in today's world, there is a huge amount of oversight by all kinds of people. You don't need the oversight of the Senate. They can get lost. That's an expensive chamber we don't need.
Well, I would recommend that we don't actually, that we do actually start to have normal people in the Senate.
The only reason why I would encourage the Senate to keep going is if they nominated me for the Senate. I would love one of those cushy jobs with lots of money and plane rides anywhere I want to go.
I think
aside from that, and I don't think that's going to be too likely, ditch the Senate. It's too expensive.
I think you should be elected to the Senate, Dave. You should get a one-term 8-year election to the Senate. You shouldn't be allowed to be a part of a political party, and you should be one of 3 representatives in Ontario. How about that?
That's totally impossible.
But Senate reform is needed. Right.
Yeah.
We need to abolish the Governor General position, says Mike. Hey, we're talking revolution here, man. Right.
I think we should get the Indigenous people to elect our Governor General or our titular head of state to take over for the Governor General, and that person could be the spokesperson for Canada in a titular way, and then the government can go on its way. Oh, by the way, though, look, I have something to say here. about Indigenous people. I've met an old work pal of mine whose daughter works among the Indigenous peoples in northern Canada, and what she reports back is horrible. It is like the state of the Indigenous people in Canada is in desperate situations. Really, really bad. Crime, prostitution, dysfunctional societies, all it's just very, very bad. And I don't think most of us, what the government wants us to think is that things are just fine with the Indigenous people and then they're moving along. It is not. They are in bad shape. I just like to put that out there. That we don't really have a real realization how really bad it is.
All right. I accept that is true. I'd love to have a fuller discussion upon that. Right. I put on there a few things that, and I was hoping that we can keep this one for, do a few of them per day. Christmas activities to make a fun holiday season. Right. Number one on this list is
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. We can do carols.
Well, there's one. Yeah, there's one. I was going to say paint nutcrackers. They suggest here a great activity for kids. Grab a wooden DIY nutcracker kit and let their imaginations run wild. Christmas colors like reds, greens, and whites, and more, and just let them paint as they wish to do. I think black also with a nutcracker, isn't it? We need some blacks on there. As well.
You know what's going to happen. So somebody's going to say, well, why don't you paint the nutcrackers? And someone say, well, these paints are toxic. They have fumes. You better not have children anywhere near them. And
oh, that's part of the fun, isn't it, Dave? To have kids near there. How about Christmas?
You're encouraging the chemical industry to making paint. By painting the nutcracker, you are giving license to the chemical companies to produce chemicals and pollute the world.
Come on, Dave, you got to go. Here's my nutcracker demonstration, right? You got to paint it up, the kid, and then once it's dry, you go, stick it in the mouth, right? Lead paints right in the mouth.
I think a nutcracker would be
get back to reality. Get back to the way Christmas was meant to be, right?
And what about those trees you cut down? That's environmentally unsustainable. What's the matter with you? You're destroying a living thing.
How about playing some Christmas movie trivia? Right.
Where'd you get an artificial tree? Look, you made it out of steel. There's steel wire in that, and that steel, that's added to the pollution of the world. And what about those plastic green things? That is just destructive to the planet. Oh my goodness! That fruitcake, holy cow! Do you know how many people, how many Mexicans went around and harvested those raisins for that? You have no idea what's going on here. Christmas is just a disaster, I can tell you.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so right, because Mike's saying an oath should be to the people of Canada, not the king. Right, Canada first. I watched the parade the other day and was cold. Yeah, well, it's winter. Right, Dave, you're right. So many unsupporters. Right. Right. I like the nutcracker. He looks awesome in some yards, right? You have a dog, mush, pull sled. Okay. So what about shopping at a holiday market? There you go. Only, what's that? Just over a week left to Christmas. Shop at a holiday market for you.
Well, I don't have to do much shopping. All I have to do is get some food and stuff like that, because as far as my boys go, I just give them money because I wouldn't be able to buy them the things they wanted anyway. I have no idea. So my Christmas spending is easy. Here, have some money.
Okay, how about creating yourself a non-traditional Christmas tree?
Oh, yes. Well, let's make it environmentally proper, and let's have a sustaining tree. We can grow a tree, and we can have it like we can like have a tree grow right up through our house, so we can keep it there alive all year long. And other non well, you can have a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. You can have those. Those are becoming pretty popular. They're kind of a kind of few barren sticks on a branch, and then you decorate them up. Um, yeah, you could do all kinds of things. There are people that just last year I was late. Well, this is innovative. I've got an artificial tree in a box, and last year I brought it out and put it on the floor, and I never got around to putting the tree up. I just kept forgetting about it. So on the 23rd, I just took the box and stood it up on its end because had a picture of a tree, and I put the ornaments on it.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, and this was the week I should have put the lights up this week. Are there any lights up around my house? Well, there's my main light for the studio, but no lights. No Christmas lights. They're suggesting you make an advent calendar. We're a bit late in the year for that one, isn't it?
Yeah, really. Yeah, you could do a sort of a bridged version of it.
Or have a backyard bonfire.
Well, yeah, be careful on that one though. You don't want to get out.
S'mores on Christmas Day. Set up an outdoor bonfire on your backyard. Yeah, but you could do that with a barbecue, couldn't you?
Well, if you have the backyard, you better have enough cookies and refreshments for the fire department when they show up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think most people would have a barbecue. If you're going to do something, have a barbecue. Okay. So then the next one, go see the lights, visit a botanical garden.
You can put on a hat like this. Oh, ho, ho.
Ho, 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 yes.
Oh,
all right. So actually, go see Dufferin Island lights. Right.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That'll put you in the Christmas spirit, or will it?
Yeah, unless you have to take a bus, and then you won't be too Christmas spirity.
Yeah, and that Sandra's right. Sandra's right in that one. Yeah.
Look, you can get Christmassy because there's two aspects of Christmas, right? There's the generous giving part of Christmas, which is symbolized by Santa Claus. And there's the other tightwad, stingy type, symbolized by the Grinch. So you can celebrate either side of Christmas. If you want a tightwad and take all the money and bah humbug the whole thing, that's an aspect. That's a possibility. You could do that. You could have a nice Grinchy Christmas and give no one any presents and keep all the Christmas cake to yourself. And I'm kind of thinking that's a good one for me this year. Num num num. I like Christmas cake. I don't want to share.
All right, we're going to keep this. We're going to keep this Christmas activity list going for tomorrow because there's quite a few of them on there, and just talk about them. All right.
Alrighty then.
As the week goes on, and I think we'll call it quits at that point.
Okie doke.
Given the technical difficulties, we're lucky to have even gotten here to the end of the show.
Yeah, we were fighting the whole way. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu.